I gave up my spot at university and handed all my tuition fees to Cheng Jiaming. For 4 years of college, he lived an easy, comfortable life supported by my sacrifices. Meanwhile, I sank deeper and deeper into the mire of hardship, struggling every single day. Upon graduation, he held a lavish wedding with the campus beauty that the whole town talked about. As for me, I died from overwork on a rainy night. When I opened my eyes again, I was 18 once more. Cheng Jiaming pulled me into his arms, swearing solemnly, "Qingqing, I'll come back to marry you right after I graduate." The roar of a passing train hummed in my ears. I blinked awake to find Cheng Jiaming holding me tight. "Qingqing, trust me. I'll never let you down. Once I graduate and land a stable job, we'll get married at once." I rubbed my eyes, realizing this was no dream. All the heartbreak and suffering from my past life crashed down on my mind. I shoved him away hard. He lost his balance and tumbled to the ground, yet still clutched the money I'd given him in a death grip. Stunned, he stared up at me. "Qingqing, what's wrong with you?" I stepped in front of him, squatted down, and snatched the cash back without hesitation. "Cheng Jiaming, I've changed my mind." His lips trembled. "What do you mean?" I stood up and brushed dust off my clothes. "I'm keeping this money to pay for my own university education." Panic flashed across his face, eyes blown wide with disbelief. "Then what am I supposed to do?" He scrambled to grab my sleeve, voice shaking. "Qingqing, we agreed on this. The money's for me. Men have an easier time finding good jobs after college. A high school diploma is more than enough for a girl like you. We'll marry as soon as I graduate." That was exactly how it went in my previous life. Cheng Jiaming and I grew up side by side. Our parents had arranged a baby engagement for us. Both our families were dirt poor, and my own mother had always opposed me going to school. So when we both received college admission letters, I worked a full summer shift at a factory to earn my own tuition. But the day before semester started, Cheng Jiaming came begging me, saying he had no money to enroll. Moved by his pleas, I softened my heart and handed over every cent, abandoning my own future. This time, I would never repeat that mistake. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my clothes again. His voice quivered with desperation. "Qingqing, please help me." I glanced at him, my resolve firmer than ever. "Cheng Jiaming, your future shouldn't be built by stepping all over me. The ones responsible for you are your parents, and yourself. But I'm your fiancé. I told you I'd marry you after graduation. Why are you doing this? Girls don't need that much schooling anyway." My expression turned cold, and I pried his hand off my arm. "It's the 21st century. Baby engagements hold no legal weight. I'll talk to my parents to call this off, and whether they agree or not, this engagement is finished." His face darkened. I walked far ahead before I heard him roar furiously behind me, "Liang Qingqing. You'll regret this." I headed home. My mother was washing clothes in the yard. She glanced up when she saw me, straightening her aching waist and calling me over. "Where have you been gallivanting all afternoon? Come here and finish this laundry." I glanced at the basin, filled entirely with my younger brother Liang Zijin's garments. "Make Zijin wash them himself." Without another word, I walked straight to my bedroom. She exploded like a lit firecracker, screaming insults outside my door. "You ungrateful brat. Worthless girl. What good did I ever get out of raising you? I'd be better off raising a pork bun. I should have drowned you when you were born." She hurled every vicious insult imaginable. Yet I felt nothing. This cruelty had been my daily norm for as long as I could remember. My father died in a car accident 2 years prior. My mother took the compensation money and settled the case out of court. She told me, "Your brother's still young. This money's saved for his future." So when my university acceptance letter arrived, she flatly ordered me, "Don't even think about going. Your father's gone, and I'm struggling to raise the two of you alone. You're 18 now, it's time you contribute to this family." Trapped between her demands and Cheng Jiaming's pleas, I'd chosen to give up college that year. From then on, I bounced from one menial job to the next. Every month, part of my wages went to Cheng Jiaming for living expenses, another portion was sent home to my mother and brother, leaving only a tiny fraction for my own survival. I thought this sacrifice would only last for years, until Cheng Jiaming graduated and married me. Instead, the news I received was that he'd broken off our engagement to wed another woman. Working 3 shifts every day left me chronically malnourished, and I collapsed and died from overwork on the side of the road. No one mourned me. No one cared. I sewed my tuition money into the lining of my trousers and slept in them. If I could just make it through this night, I'd break free from them forever. My life had been given a second chance. At 4 a.m., the sky was still pitch black. I crept out of bed, slung my tattered school bag over my shoulder, holding nothing but my admission letter, and left a signed document terminating our engagement on the table. Then I slipped out of the house quietly. I only breathed easy once I boarded the train bound for the city where my university was located. Standing at the front gate of Qingnan University, the reality of my rebirth finally sank in. I knew this campus well. In my past life, I'd come here only to stay close to Cheng Jiaming, taking a part-time cafeteria job serving meals. I still remembered rushing over to greet him excitedly, eager to share the good news of my new job. But he'd immediately ducked his head, pretending not to know me. When his roommates noticed, he'd lied and told them I was a poor distant cousin he barely knew. Later, he tracked me down, frowning and ordering me to quit. "Liang Qingqing, do you have any idea how embarrassing this is for me?" Back then, I bowed my head and endured his complaints silently, waiting until he left to let my tears fall. I'd foolishly believed my endurance and sacrifices would eventually earn me a happy ending. How naive I'd been. In this world, no one can be relied on except yourself. After finishing registration and paying my tuition, I followed the signs toward the dormitory building. By pure bad luck, I ran straight into Cheng Jiaming as I walked down the stairs. His face turned livid the second he spotted me. I planned to ignore him and walk past, but he snatched my wrist in a tight grip. Hatred burned in his eyes. Liang Qingqing, do you think I couldn't afford college without your money? I twitched my mouth and pulled my arm free. So you managed to scrape together tuition. Then why were you so desperate to take mine before? His face flushed deep red with rage. If you hadn't held back, my parents wouldn't have had to walk dozens of miles late at night to borrow money. He stepped closer, looming over me. You'll regret this. Do you think a college degree changes anything? Even after graduation, women can't land decent jobs, you'll just end up married off anyway. Without me, who would ever want you? Dream on if you think you'll rise from rags to riches. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. He froze completely. It took him several seconds to stammer out, You hit me? I hit you exactly because you deserved it. Cheng Jiaming, let's get one thing straight right now. Don't harass me ever again. We'll act as if we never met. If you don't, I've got plenty of ways to make your life miserable. Before he could react, I walked away. When I reached my dorm room, another girl had already arrived with her parents. My roommate Wenwen leaned against the door frame, complaining as her mom wiped her desk and dad made her bed. This dorm's such a dump. Her mother comforted her, hang in there, baby. Our house isn't far from campus. I'll have your father drive you home every weekend. The scene stung my heart sharply. I'd never once received such gentle care from my own family, who valued sons above all else. Wenwen caught my gaze and smiled, holding out her hand in a friendly gesture. Hi there, new roommate. Dazed, I shook her hand. Maybe my life really was going to turn out differently this time. On the first day of classes, I ran for class monitor, and won the position. I never slacked off, grabbing the front row for every lecture and taking meticulous notes. I knew this opportunity was far too precious to waste. After class, I headed to the cafeteria and reclaimed the same part-time job I'd held in my past life. But this time, I worked for my own sake. The wages covered my daily living expenses, though not my tuition fees. Wenwen noticed I was struggling financially and pulled me aside one day with an offer, private tutoring. 30 yuan an hour, for sessions a week for her 4th grade cousin. I threw my arms around her in delight, endlessly grateful for her help. In my previous life, I'd slaved away on a factory assembly line for a mere 6 yuan an hour, exhausting my back for barely 40 yuan a day. I couldn't help but sigh at the difference. Knowledge truly could transform one's circumstances. My routine fell into place, cafeteria shifts Monday through Friday, tutoring on weekends. One midday, I was serving meals at the cafeteria counter when I spotted Cheng Jiaming in the queue. He lined up right in front of my window. I was surprised. In my past life, he'd avoided me entirely once he learned I worked here. Why seek me out now? Soon it was his turn. He held out his lunchbox and pointed to 2 vegetarian dishes. I scooped them efficiently and handed the box back. 2 yuan. He hesitated to take it. The line behind him grew restless, and I frowned. Swipe your card. He twisted the hem of his shirt, leaned in close, and whispered awkwardly. Qingqing, could you add some meat for me? I glanced up at him. Which cut would you like? His ears burned bright red. He glanced left and right nervously before mumbling, Could you give it to me for free? My parents don't send me much living money this month. I set down the meat spoon and spoke coldly. Either swipe your card or step aside, there are other students waiting. His eyes dimmed with disappointment. He swiped his meal card and left, shooting me a resentful look over his shoulder. I rolled my eyes. In my past life, he'd feasted on meat every day with my money while I survived on plain steamed buns. He'd even used my hard-earned cash to chase other girls. Not once had he spared a thought for my suffering, taking all my sacrifices for granted. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could he grow so accustomed to me supporting him that he still expected handouts now? This hardship was nothing less than he deserved. The semester flew by in a whirlwind of busy, fulfilling days. I ranked 5th in my grade for final exams and earned a scholarship. I also qualified to switch majors, and without a second thought, I chose computer science. Summer break arrived, and I applied to stay on campus. I crammed computer coursework every spare minute and picked up another side job. One evening as I walked back to the dorm after work, Liang Zijin ran up to me excitedly. Sis. Mom and I haven't been able to reach you for ages. My instinct screamed trouble the second I saw him. Mom hurt her leg working. The county hospital can't treat her, we had to bring her to the provincial capital's hospital. I followed him to the ward, where my mother sat alongside my maternal aunt, a woman I'd only met twice my entire life. I remembered she'd married a city man years ago and moved to the suburbs of the provincial capital. In our hometown, she was seen as someone who'd married well, so she always carried an air of superiority around our family. When she spotted me with Zijin, she shot me a disapproving glance and spoke up. Qingqing, don't take this the wrong way, but what's the point of going to university? Don't schools teach you anything about respecting your elders these days? Your mother's deathly ill, and you never even check in. My mother glared at me and quickly chimed in. Exactly. Daughters are water spilled once they are married, and you're already acting like this before you even leave home. I raised an ungrateful wretch. Honestly, Qingqing, you have no filial piety at all. You never think about your mother or brother. Our family's barely scraping by. You never should have gone to college, tuition's expensive and a waste of time. College degrees aren't a guaranteed stable job like they used to be. Girls gain nothing from all this schooling. You've just been brainwashed by online news. You should have gotten a job and married young to support your brother instead. I'm only saying this because I care about you. Your father's gone, and Zijin's our only hope. It's not too late to drop out, he'll take the college entrance exam next year. How am I supposed to fund 2 university students alone? I hadn't even gotten a single word in edgewise, yet they'd already mapped out my entire future for me. I sat quietly on the stool opposite them and stared at my aunt. Auntie, isn't Shinshin about to take the college entrance exam too? Shinshin was her daughter. I'd heard she'd failed to get into regular high school, and her parents had spent a fortune on extra school fees just to get her into a rural township high school. If university is truly as useless as you claim, why did you go to such great lengths to send Shinshin to high school and prepare her for the exam? She froze, her expression stiffening, yet she stubbornly argued back. Our family's nothing like yours. We're city folk, raising daughters is different for us, and we can afford the fees. You're being so selfish, Ching. You need to think about your family's struggles. She rambled on self-righteously. I tugged at the corner of my mouth in a cold smile. Sorry, but I haven't spent a single cent of my family's money on college. I support myself entirely. Why can't Zijin do the same? I leaned closer to her deliberately. Auntie, your words and actions contradict each other terribly. I'm the first person in our entire clan to go to university. As an elder, shouldn't you be happy for me? Or are you afraid I'll land a great job and earn good money, stripping you of the sense of superiority you hold over our family? Her eyes widened in shock. She snapped at me, no manners at all. Then she grabbed her bag and stormed out, ignoring my mother's frantic calls for her to stay. Furious that I'd driven her away, my mother hurled an empty plastic bottle straight at me. Liang Qingqing. How dare you speak to your elder like that? We don't have the money to pay for my hospital bills. Your aunt finally agreed to lend a sum, and you chased her off. Where am I supposed to get cash now? I'm telling you, you're responsible for covering all my medical fees, treatment costs, and nourishment. So this was her real motive all along. I held my hands up in surrender. I have no money. She shot upright in bed, enraged. Don't play dumb with me. Sheng Xiaming told us everything. You work part-time jobs and tutor kids, plus you get scholarships. You must have saved thousands by now. Liang Qingqing, don't forget I'm your mother. This money is rightfully mine. You think you're too grown up for me to discipline? The whole family needs money. What's wrong with you chipping in? If you refuse to pay, I'll march straight to your university and cause a scene. I'll tell everyone you abandoned your own mother after getting into college. You want that degree so badly? I'll make sure the school expels you for being morally corrupt. I'd always known she never loved me, yet hearing her lay it all out so plainly still stung my heart. I reined in my anger and stood to my feet. Wang Ying, coming to visit you today is already more kindness than you deserve. You can forget about money. I won't give you a single cent. You keep calling me an ungrateful brat, so I might as well live up to the name, otherwise, I'd lose out for nothing. I nodded towards Zijin, who stood silent beside the bed. If you dare storm my school and ruin my life, rest assured your precious son will suffer right alongside me. We'll both lose our futures. I've got nothing to lose, but you do. Don't ever bother me again. Threatening her through Zijin drained all the color from her face. She stared at me in disbelief for a long time before stammering out a full sentence. You've turned into a completely different person. I don't have a daughter like you. I laughed dryly. Perfect. From now on, pretend you never had one. In my past life, she'd rushed to marry me off to Cheng Jiaming purely for the bride price. When he dumped me, her first reaction wasn't grief for me, it was to scream that I'd failed to trap a man. The next day, she'd contacted a matchmaker to sell me to an elderly bachelor from the neighboring village for 30,000 yuan. When news of my death reached her, she felt no sorrow, only regret at losing her personal cash cow. I no longer needed or wanted this family. I turned away from her and looked at Zijin. Zijin, you know full well how many advantages you've gotten by stepping all over me your whole life. Since Mom just disowned me, you're the sole son of the Liang family now. With that, I walked out of the ward. Zijin scrambled forward and grabbed my arm. Sis. I shook him off roughly. Don't worry about Mom's bills. Dad's accident compensation was 200,000 yuan. Even without me, that's more than enough to fund your college tuition and wedding someday. Later, Zijin came to my university twice to find me, but I avoided him every time. The new semester began soon after. Having switched majors, I quit my cafeteria job. Every day after class, I buried myself in the library or self-study room. My hard work paid off. I quickly caught up with my classmates and ranked among the top students in my new department. 2005 marked the rapid rise of the internet, and I knew I had to seize this opportunity. In my past life, I'd worked at a clothing wholesale market, where a young girl would come every weekend to buy stock to sell online. A month before I died, I'd seen her interviewed on television. She built a successful clothing company from scratch. So in my sophomore year, I built a website using my computer science knowledge to sell apparel. Every weekend, I took multiple bus transfers to the wholesale market and bought my first batch of inventory with my saved savings. There was barely any competition back then. Customers quickly found my website, and orders poured in non-stop. My spare time was split between hauling bulk clothes from the market and packing shipments. Within half a year, I earned my first substantial profit, 100,000 yuan clear after deducting all costs. With this capital and records of my steady order volume, I approached a clothing factory to propose a partnership. The manager met with me, read my business plan and creative concepts, and agreed to give me a trial run. Working directly with the manufacturer cut my costs drastically. As orders kept multiplying, I earned nearly 1 million yuan in just another 6 months. I rubbed my eyes repeatedly, staring at my bank balance. I truly could build a good life relying only on myself. That summer vacation of my third year, I spent 600,000 yuan purchasing 2 apartments in the university city. I knew housing prices would skyrocket within the next 12 months. One apartment sat near the campus, the other in the city center. Even if unexpected trouble arose later, I'd have two appreciating properties as a safety net. As the third year drew to a close, all my classmates panicked hunting for internships. Meanwhile, my online clothing store grew bigger by the day. A corporation contacted me, offering 30 million yuan to buy my website outright. 30 million was an astronomical sum. After a week of deliberation, I accepted their offer. I'd maintained a personal blog while running the store, which had accumulated a loyal readership over 2 years. With that existing fan base, launching a new brand wouldn't be difficult. Originally, I'd only opened the shop to earn money, but along the way, I'd fallen in love with fashion design. I decided to take this chance to build a clothing brand entirely my own. The 30 million hit my bank account the day I signed the contract. This time, seeing the massive number didn't shock me like it once would have. I spent 2 full days in my dorm drafting a long-term plan for my brand. To create professional apparel lines, I needed formal fashion design training. So I resolved to pursue a master's degree in Milan. On the weekends, I visited an overseas education agency to lay out my study abroad goals. I planned to spend 1 year preparing for my applications, certain that this time next year, I'd be studying in Milan, chasing dreams I'd never dared to imagine before. One weekend, I headed off to my IELTS tutoring class. As I walked through the campus gate, I spotted Cheng Jiaming holding a bouquet of flowers out to a girl. I took a closer look. It was Lin Xian, the woman he'd married in my past life. Lin Xian was the only daughter of a local factory owner, born into a comfortable family. Marrying her had been his ticket to climbing the social ladder back then. I'd assumed the plot would repeat itself, she'd accept the flowers, and they'd live happily ever after. But the next second, Lin Xian snatched the bouquet and threw it violently onto the ground. Anger blazed across her face. Cheng Jiaming. I've put up with you for far too long. It's my birthday, and this cheap bouquet is all you can muster? Cheng Jiaming ducked his head in embarrassment and tried to explain. Qian, I'm short on cash right now. I promise I'll buy you anything you want later. Lin Xian rolled her eyes sharply. Later, always later. I paid for our movie tickets last week. Yaya's boyfriend bought her a luxury designer bag for her birthday, how am I supposed to compare? Her voice grew loud, drawing a crowd of curious onlookers from the student body. Cheng Jiaming's face burned with humiliation. He clenched his fists and whispered in a placating tone. Qian, please understand me. My parents are farmers back home with very little money. Trust me, once I graduate I'll land a great job and buy you everything you want. Lin Xian pushed his hands away. I don't care. You have 1 week to get me a designer bag, or we are breaking up. With that, she spun on her high heels and left without a single backward glance, leaving Cheng Jiaming standing alone, deathly pale. In my past life, my endless support had shielded him from every financial worry, and he'd never once spared a thought for my hardship. Now, he finally understood how hard his parents worked to scrape together money for him. I watched the scene unfold, then slung my bag over my shoulder and walked toward the gate. Just before I left, he turned and saw me. Our eyes met, and he waved awkwardly. Ching, heading out? He spotted the IELTS textbooks tucked in my arms and raised his brows in surprise. Why are you studying IELTS? I had no desire to engage with him, so I brushed it off casually. Just studying for fun. He nodded vaguely, then scanned me from head to toe. Ching, you look like you're doing really well for yourself. Everything I wore that day added up to over 10,000 yuan. Even without knowing luxury brand names, he could tell the quality was expensive. I raised an eyebrow, neither confirming nor denying his observation. He stepped closer, his tone turning unctuous and flattering. Ching, I heard you run some online business and made quite a bit of money, plus you get scholarships every year. Could you lend me a little cash? I'm in urgent need right now. Not even much, just 20,000 yuan. I'll pay you back as soon as I can. I stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. Cheng Jiaming, do I have the word Asuka written across my forehead? He scratched his head awkwardly. That's not what I meant. Graduation's around the corner, and I've been hunting internships non-stop. There are too many graduates and too few jobs. Lin Xian's family has powerful connections. If I want to stay in the city, I have to stay on her good side. I can't afford to offend her. Ching, I promise I'll pay you back. You've never dated anyone all these years, so I know you still haven't gotten over me. I swear, once I marry Lin Xian and gain access to her family's wealth, I'll come back and marry you, okay? I jumped back 2 meters as if I'd just heard a ghost story. I pointed a finger at him and shouted furiously. Who do you think you are? Waiting for you to come marry me? You gold-digging social climber, stay far away from me. Even if every man on earth vanished, I'd never be with you. My harsh words left him frozen, his face turning livid. After a long silence, he pointed at me and yelled back. Liang Ching, don't think I'm blind. Everyone knows you didn't earn that money honestly, you must be relying on some rich man. Others might buy your little shop story, but I don't believe a word of it. I'd never want a woman like you. And mark my words, I'll go tell your mother all about your shameful behavior at school and spread rumors about you back in our village. Let's see how she deals with you then. With that, he stormed off. I wasted no more energy on him, hailed a taxi, and headed straight to my tutoring class. With a clear goal driving me forward, time flew by quickly. I passed the IELTS exam on my first attempt, met all the overseas university requirements, submitted all my application materials, and finally received the offer letter from my dream school. Only my advisor and dorm roommates knew about my study abroad plans. When they heard the news, they begged me to treat them to a celebratory meal, and I happily agreed. We just gathered our things to leave when the class monitor rushed over with a strange look on his face. Ching, the counselor wants you in his office right away. When I arrived at the office, I saw my mother and Cheng Jiaming standing there. My heart sank instantly. The second she laid eyes on me, my mother marched over, yelling insults. She swung her hand to slap me, but I dodged aside, and her palm hit only thin air. Liang Qingqing. You've grown far too bold. Did I send you to university to hook up with some old rich man? I glanced behind her at Cheng Jiaming, who stared at the ground guiltily, and immediately understood everything. I stepped forward and fixed my gaze on him. Cheng Jiaming, which eye of yours saw me dating a wealthy older man? He couldn't meet my stare, yet he still insisted stubbornly. Isn't it obvious? Where else would you get so much money? I've seen you enter that fancy residential complex near campus several times. Liang Qingqing, your actions disgrace every student at this university. I stared at him coldly. So in your mind, any woman who earns money must be using unethical means? Of course. Even men struggle to make decent wages, what chance does a woman have? Liang Qingqing, you've completely let me down. I turned to my mother. Do you believe his nonsense too? She glared at me sharply. Quit beating around the bush. No wonder you never come home these years, you've got somewhere nicer to stay. Tell me honestly, how much money do you have stashed away? I laughed and shot back. What does my money have to do with you? Your brother failed the college entrance exam. He met a girl at his factory job, and her family wants 200,000 yuan as a bride price. Now that you're rolling in cash, as his elder sister, you're obligated to pay it. The counselor standing beside us twitched uncomfortably at her words. Teacher son, I'm sorry to put you in this awkward position, but I've never done any of the things they're accusing me of, I reassured my advisor. Also, her claim that she paid for my university education is completely false. Every cent of my tuition and living expenses over these 4 years was earned through my own part-time work. She never gave me a single yuan. She has no right to stand here and interrogate me today. Her only 2 reasons for coming are simple. First, she heard I have money and wants to figure out exactly how much I own. Second, to squeeze as much cash as possible out of me for my brother. My mother erupted into hysterical shouting the moment I finished speaking. You ungrateful child. I raised you for 18 years, there's labor even if no credit. If you refuse to hand over the money, I'll march straight to the president's office and call the police. I'll report you for immoral conduct and have you and your sugar daddy arrested. There was no more reason to hide the truth. I stepped forward, and she fell silent instantly. I glanced around the office slowly and spoke clearly. I do have a fair amount of savings, but every penny was earned by my own hard work and business skills, no one gave me a cent. Over the past few years, I ran an online clothing store that grew successful enough to build up savings. Later, a corporation bought the rights to my store for a large sum. Oh, and the luxury complex Cheng Jiaming saw me entering? Those apartments are mine, I bought them myself. Cheng Jiaming's face turned ashen. Impossible, how could that be? My mother's entire demeanor shifted in an instant. I knew my daughter would never do such shameful things. Jiaming, I think you are just jealous of Qingqing, jealous that a girl can make more money than you. After a lengthy, messy argument, we stepped out of the administrative office. I walked ahead, but Cheng Jiaming darted forward to block my path. Qingqing. I'm really sorry about everything earlier. I shot him a cold glance. Move aside. He refused to budge, lifting his face in a pleading expression. Qingqing, please help me. Graduation's almost here, and I still haven't found a job. Qianqian broke up with me, and my mom's leg injury left us with no money for medical treatment. You're so wealthy now, could you lend me some cash? No, I cut him off without hesitation. Cheng Jiaming, I owe you nothing. We walked separate paths a long time ago. Once we step out of this university gate, we'll never cross paths again. Don't expect handouts from a stranger. He opened his mouth to argue, but my mother shoved him roughly out of the way. She plastered a fake, wrinkly smile across her face and sidled up to me. Qingqing, I know I've treated you unfairly sometimes, but blood runs thicker than water. We are mother and daughter, our bones are connected even if we break apart. You've become so successful now. I could live a comfortable life relying on you. I've never even seen the apartments you bought. Could you give me a set of keys? I rolled my eyes and told her flatly, you can't withdraw money from a bank account you never deposited into. I ignored her completely and hurried down the stairs. I knew they wouldn't give up that easily. So after wrapping up all my study abroad paperwork, I made plans to rent out both apartments once I left the country. Before departing, I visited a notary public to draw up a legal will. Should I pass away without children, all my assets would be donated unconditionally to an animal rescue shelter for stray cats and dogs. After graduation, I traveled alone across China for a full month. When I returned, only 3 days remained before my master's program in Milan began. I dragged my suitcase back to my apartment building and spotted 2 figures squatting by the entrance from a distance. Zijin's voice drifted over. Mom, do you think Liang Qingqing will come back? It's been half a month, and we haven't seen a trace of her. My mother's sharp, bitter tone followed. The apartment's here, she can't run away forever. Don't worry, I've asked around. She's worth millions now. It's only right she shares her fortune with us. Once she comes home, I'll make her buy Zijin a house and hand over several million yuan. Then he'll be able to marry any girl he wants. And I'll move in with her, hire a maid to wait on me hand and foot. I'll live out the rest of my days in luxury. They both cackled wildly, lost in their greedy fantasies. I grabbed my suitcase, called the elevator, and quietly slipped back down to the ground floor. I checked into a nearby hotel, then visited my real estate agent the next day to change the listing from rental to sale, signing full power of attorney over to the agency. After 3 days in the hotel, I boarded the earliest flight bound for Italy. Right before boarding, I answered Zijin's incoming call. His urgent voice crackled through the line. Sis, you finally picked up. Where are you? I glanced out the window at the airplane fuselage. Say what you need to say quickly. Sis, about that, he didn't finish his sentence before my mother snatched the phone away. Ching Ching, we're camped outside your apartment. When will you come back? Your brother needs money, you have to support him. He's your only brother, you'll rely on him when you're old. I let out a soft laugh. Don't wait for me. I'm never coming back. You'll probably never find me again for the rest of your lives. Don't hold out hope of getting a single cent from me. I'd rather donate every last yuan than give you a penny. From now on, pretend you never had a daughter. I hung up the phone, pulled out the SIM card, and tossed it straight into a trash bin. Later, I completed my master's degree smoothly in Milan. I kept updating my personal blog, and later microblog, throughout the years, building a large loyal following of readers. Once all preparations were complete, I launched my own clothing brand. I opened physical retail stores alongside my online shop. Within a few short years, my brick-and-mortar locations spread across nearly all Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities in China. 8 years passed before I returned to my home country again. I'd come to cut the ribbon for a brand new flagship store in the most bustling shopping mall of a major city. I stepped out of my car in immaculate makeup, and a mall security guard jogged forward to hold the car door open for me. Our eyes locked. It was Cheng Jiaming, frozen in shock where he stood in his security uniform. I stared at him without the slightest flicker of emotion, shifted my gaze away, and followed the mall's general manager toward the elevator. I never spared him a second glance, our lives had diverged irreparably long ago. Later, an old village acquaintance named Shan Shan got in touch with me through work and filled me in on their lives. Cheng Jiaming had failed multiple university courses and never received his diploma. He bounced endlessly from job to job, security guard, salesperson, insurance agent, but his overinflated ego meant he never stuck to any line of work for long. Nearing 30, he had no career, no savings, and no wife. As for my mother, 5 years prior, she'd injured her back while working. While she lay in the hospital, Zijin transferred every last bit of her savings to open a clothing shop for his girlfriend. The business failed completely, and the girl left him without a second thought. The two fought viciously every single day at home. My mother constantly complained to the neighbors, if only I'd treated Ching Ching better all those years. Zijin refused to find steady work, lazing around the house and leeching off his mother's odd jobs to scrape by. At that moment, I lay on a beach lounge chair in the Maldives, scrolling through Shan Shan's messages. I felt absolutely nothing. In my past life, I'd collapsed and died alone on a rainy street, with no one mourning, regretting, or caring for me. In this new life, they only felt remorse once I gained wealth and success. But their regret meant nothing to me anymore. I could live a far richer, happier life all on my own.